Newland from the State Department. I do so because after I did my video yesterday, more information started to trickle out, and I've now had an opportunity to read properly the statement that the Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, provided confirming her resignation. And it's also clear to me that certain things had previously happened over the preceding weeks, which I'd missed, and which led to my making a mistake in my program yesterday. Now, in my program yesterday, I referred to Victoria Nuland as the continuing acting Deputy Secretary of State. And in fact, if you actually go to the statement itself, the statement that that Blinken made, it actually referred to the fact that she had served as acting Deputy Secretary of State. It refers to her principles that she has brought to her work.
Call from Dr. Az's. Call from Dr. Az's.
Secretary of State, a role she filled seamlessly for 7 months. The use of the past tense, filled, ought to have alerted me to the fact that
Victoria Newland's gone. Yay! So Opal, just tell your friends that are shorting it lots of luck. When it runs, well, I wonder what you'll be saying, but it may not run. And the odds that you and your friends have of being able to every time we get involved in a stock, it's up. That gives you the opportunity just to hit it from all directions, which for you and your friends is a small amount of money. And the air pockets, you just make your day trades, made 500, made 1,000, and then you're gleeful about it. I have no respect for these thieves, these pickpockets who come and take from retail investors. Now, if retail investors could buy without putting money up, if retail investors could short, for that matter, without putting stock up, we might have a level playing field. But right now, you and your friends have a playing field under Goober Gary Gensler, Chuck E. Cheese, Coulton Cromwell Chowser, and Adina the Smile Friedman, and Robert the Cook. You can just print money. It's like stealing candy from a child. And good on you. You found a way to make money while the rest of the world suffers. And good on you. And I hope you're proud of it as you take your shekels out of the market and build your empire of deceit and greed. All right, let's go to the top. Frank Anastasio was first. Narad. Counterfeit shares. Hey, Rico. Counterfeit shares everywhere. Before I start, for those of you who are so inclined, because it matters now, Ham's son fell today, and he's in the hospital. If you have a second to say a prayer for the whole family, but for his son. What I prayed for was, a bit of a miracle that he can be safe from harm. Anyway, that's one thing I just want to get out. Hey, pilot, there's so little you can do in life when people are hurt. Hey, KYP, PYT, PYT, KYP, KYP, PYT, PYK. I don't know. I've never been able to come up with a clever way of playing that one. Hey, Andy. Hey, Saber. I don't know, PBM. I mean, good luck with it. I don't know anything about it. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, CJ Yukon. He's right here. He's tired. He's There's no way around it. He's getting old. Yesterday morning when we went down the stairs, he jumped and he landed flat on his. It was painful to watch because his legs aren't strong. I try to always constrain him, but it was raining, and and then last night I always make these little treats and I throw him around on the bed so he can. It gives him something fun to search for. He gets so excited, like he's a puppy. He started circling around, and just a simple movement, he fell off the mattress onto the floor, banged into this piece of furniture, looked up, totally confused. And like any dog, he got back at the fun part, which was searching for treats in the various folds and pillows and sheets of the mattress. But yeah, it's just he's getting old, and so I'm really thankful for any time I share with him. And I'm not mean he can, when we're leaving the house, he can walk, he can book, but when we're coming back, it's like pulling a 70-pound bag of cement. And I don't know if it's because he's tired or he just doesn't want to come back. But anyway, he's doing well. All right, Vincent. I think what's going on here with ZJYL is a steady accumulation by bigger players than we. But the stock price is 917. These day traders like Multicat and the rest that constantly barrage Twitterati and everything with negative, and they're so smart. The only reason they win is because they cheat. They're able to sell stock they don't own, or because they become such a good client, they can borrow stock in some cases, and they just sell, and they do it all together, and they cover quickly. And man, they go home. What'd you do today, honey? Well, I destroyed a company, and I made 10 grand. Oh, good. So I can get that new car? Well, not yet. Let's go for the Tesla. Let me do it for another 2 weeks, and then you can buy a brand new Tesla. It's an upside down world that we're in. But that's ZJYL. TLO at 878 had some medical thing approved, and that stock's not really running up. RCRT is in the green today at 185. GDC's down a little bit. And let me just see. I need to get a screen that we can have showing all of this while we're talking. And but yeah, everything is ongoing depression right now. But don't get discouraged, in my opinion, with ZJYL yet. It's relatively low volume, I think, if you adjust for 20 to 1 for 20. And we're getting to the point also, in my judgment, that anything that's going to happen will be next week. Why? Because in my experience, very few things happen on Friday. It's not always true, but and then I'm going to answer a few more here. But I think we just have to start looking at other areas to invest, particularly gold. Gold is breaking out. And I don't know if it's because of the pandemic, but everything in life is speeding up. That things that I predicted years ago, the collapse in commercial real estate, and odd things happening. I predicted people would be living in cities, and it's true they are. They've moved, but because of the pandemic, a lot of people are moving out to the suburbs. So that one is going contra trend to what I think would happen. But the main reason it's able to go out to the suburbs, my predicate wasn't a pandemic. It was much higher gasoline prices, like 10 times where they are. Imagine, if you can, the next time you fill up your tank, that the gasoline you're pumping into it is 10 times more expensive. And as you drain that tank, think about, would you be able to go shopping, uh, uh, go visit friends, go pick up your kids, go to work from a suburban home? And that was why I thought people would come into the city. But I guess that I'm either wrong or I'm delayed. And also, cities don't feel as safe anymore. DC doesn't feel as safe, particularly later at night. Might just be my own sense of it, but it doesn't feel as safe. So anyway, gold looks to be breaking out. A lot of people are calling me about gold. They know I follow and have raised money for mining companies and oil and gas companies. I continue to believe silver will go 1 for 1 for gold. I think gold is headed to 3,000 and higher. I think silver can go same price. But copper is a really interesting. There's only one asset in the world that I know of, other than maybe old style. What's the word? Gentleman and gentlewomaness towards each other, and discreetness and all that. Maybe that's at all-time lows. But there's only one class asset, which is in this everything bubble. Everything, real estate is just preposterously priced. It can go higher, and I think it will. In some areas, office buildings are still strong. Maybe that's one that's on the way down. But then farmland, water, Bitcoin, gold's at new highs, at least against the dollar. But one asset class, one asset isn't, and that's silver. Silver's I think it's at 60% of its all-time high. Also, there's some ETFs you can trade, but if you buy ETFs, and we can talk about them, but they're for trades only. Do not hold on to them, because if the financial system collapses, COPX, which is copper, GDX, which is gold miners, GDXJ, which is junior gold miners. I was talking to somebody this morning, and I didn't write down one for silver, but I don't really think there is one for an ETF for silver. At least there's not one I recall, because I don't play them. They're just paper. They're not real assets, but they'll trade. And silver could be $100 before you open an account. That's just life. Another thing to miss out on while we wait for other things to happen. But what I was trying to say about how everything speeds up since the pandemic, one of the core things I've warned everyone about is the dollar, and the fact that oil's being priced in dollars. When I used to talk about it, everyone would kind of look at me like, what the hell are you talking about? Now it's everywhere. It's on every newspaper. every radio, well, I don't know if people listen to radio, every YouTube, every news station, and it's happening. It's coming quickly. So anyway, that's enough knowledge for today. Mostly opinion. Hey, Charlie Mac, Panda Rock. Hey, Ronald. Well, I don't, I mean, the real way to write your sentence, Ronald, is nothing. I'm not sure it's true. Nothing came true, but nothing came true in the time frame that you were willing to give it, which is fair enough. Univest, Ronald, was a filing. I have it somewhere. I'm not going to bother to bring it out. On September 11th, Finger filed a shelf registration for $300 million and a sub registration for $25 million. It's specifically named Univest. Now, here we are, October, November, December, January, February. We're almost 6 months later. Is that normal that it takes 6 months time for a bank in China dealing with the Chinese government? Is it normal for it to take a long time? I don't know, but I wouldn't say that Univest is entirely out of the picture. I don't know what role they'll take, but my guess is we have not heard the end of that shelf registration. It hasn't been withdrawn, to my knowledge. I mean, maybe today, and I think it implies either an acquisition, merger, which is almost the same thing, or some sort of expansion of the company's revenue generating abilities. So there's that. I don't know what you mean about arrest. I don't think there were any arrests involved with Finger at all. I don't know where you're getting that from. The way when I heard arrests, it was regarding GTI, the seller who left Pacific West with a $3 or $6 million loss in a retail account, and the FBI was investigating. Also, the Alpine situation, and then as far as I know, Wes Christian went after spoofing with 54. That's the number I remember. Market makers, but the arrests, in as much as any were predicted, were along the GTII side. Dividend. I haven't heard any promises over time on a dividend from Finger. Recently, there's been a discussion that we might see a dividend. Well, it didn't happen by March 1 or March 6th or whatever. But I actually think there is going to be a dividend of some sort. I do not know if it's cash, I doubt it, or if it's simply a stock dividend, or if it's a dividend of some aspect. I don't know, but I have heard that in the near term, and by that I mean weeks, possibly months, but sort of, by mid-year, we'll hear about a dividend of some kind. Will it change the price of the stock? I have absolutely no idea. Only short seller total control. Well, that's true of any of these stocks, Ronald. I believe the short sellers are in complete control, while Gensler, Cook, Friedman, Cromwell all look the other way on behalf of the major players on Wall Street. the short sellers have complete control in the prices until they don't. But thank you for wishing everybody good luck too. Thank you. We wish you good luck. Kevin Biller, volume. Oh, the speaker volume. Let me just check. I think it's working. I think it's working. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, it is. All right. All right, let's see, Cliff. I'd like to see it. That's HNRA. That's different than HNRC, but I'd like to see it. All right, so Gin Medical International is 921, bid is 920, ask 925, 320,000 shares. It's 239. I don't imagine anything much more is going to happen today, but we'll see. Houston Northwest Radiology Association. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, here it is. The company posted updated deck. Well, let's look at it quickly. Problem with the HNRA, they were a SPAC, they de-SPACed, and whoever the operator was destroyed the stock price. And then they raised money, 18 million shares at or they have a prospectus out there. I don't know if they finalized it. At around $2 a share. Well, their asset prior to that financing of 18 million was worth over $50 a share based on the numbers they gave. But these greedy sons of a guns believe they deserve to take all the profit out for themselves because they and their wives need to go on vacation at the most expensive places. All right, let's see. Let's just look at the deck quickly. I can't find this silly thing. It puts me back. When I click it, it puts me to the link, and then the link puts me back to, oh, that's news. All right, so maybe I have to go investors. They have a big deck. They have a big deck. March 2024. Download PDF. Let's go to see how many. Let's go to see how many shares are in place. Let's skip the story. Remember, it's not the property, it's the mortgage. It's not the house, it's the mortgage. Let's see how many shares are now out. Capital structure. 7.2 million shares. And some preferred stock, 10 million in warrants. The hands of these financial operators are all over this. So that right there is probably 30 million. And then they're going to have 50. It's a shame. It's a tragedy. But when I did my video, I haircutted my target by 75%. So I came up with either $15 or $12 a share. And I think that's where it's headed, $10 or $12. This guy, Dante Caravaggio, seems like an honest guy. I listened to his call. But anyway, Cliff, let me just, they have untapped reserves of almost 1 billion barrels of oil in place. there's been he says here 100 billion of recent M&A activity in the Permian Basin, and it's hot. They have 400. Well, sorry, that's what they used to have. Increased their production to 1,200 barrels of oil equivalent a day. There's an additional 34 million barrels of oil in the legacy zones. Well, anyway, let's not waste everybody else's time. I believe HNRA is an attractive trade now, but they've capped off the upside because of the SPAC sponsors. Well, one of the sponsors was HNRC, but whoever is the fund behind the placement agent destroyed the stock. So when they come to market, for a year, the stock's worth $10, $12. As soon as it de-SPACs, it's under $2. And when the company comes to market for capital, they do it at $2 instead of at $12. I mean, whatever the dinosaurs put down there is still the same. Didn't change. Yeah. Muted. Thank you, Matt, for the $2. After YouTube takes half, I'm going to buy Lucky a treat. I'll buy him. I don't know what his favorite. I know he's got 3 or 4 favorite things. I don't know which one is the favorite. KYP. All right, for everyone that's new here, Opal is trying to get you to be fudded out of ZJYL. I guess his short pals are concerned that they can't drive it down. It's up to you. I mean, the stock has doubled from where many people got in the stock, so you can still get out with a profit. You don't have to be diamond hands. They have all of the advantages. They can sell stock that doesn't exist. They don't have to settle. They have guys come on and make everyone afraid. They don't run out of fake shares to sell because by definition, you just sell more. But in the case of ZJYL, there is a massive short position. It is a huge loss on the prime brokers' compliance runs, and I guess by extension, their balance sheet. They don't want to buy in their best customers. Best because it's commission and fees. Not morally best. Best just because they're thieves and they generate a lot of business. But I wouldn't want to be short ZJYL right now. Oh, it's got $1 billion or whatever the hell market cap. What is it? I can't see the market cap. I saw it the other day. Hard to borrow shares. Yeah, 1.4 billion market cap. How can a company like this have that much? Well, GME, AMC ran, and they were companies in trouble. This isn't about fundamentals. This is about shorts having sold the stock down probably at the $1 level. Pre-split, it was 20 to 25 was their selling point. I think that translates now to about $1. Well, they're whatever it is, the stock's now 9. That's a huge loss that they're sitting on, and it's apparently 200 million shares. Now, guys cannot be optimistic. Don't know why. I mean, this guy doesn't even really have a name, and he just throws out a not for nothing comment that's meaningless. How can it ever hit 100 if it struggles to stay at 10? Well, you know why. You know why. The buy-ins haven't occurred yet. They may never occur, but if they do, 100 is not going to be where it stops. It's going to go higher than that. So anyway, uh, uh, we don't know who the they is any more than we know who Opal is. Everyone operates in the dark. And so if you don't want to be in the stock, there's a long way down if it doesn't work. I mean, it'll go back to $1. So the longer it takes, the more you listen to people like Opal with a completely useless comment. Well, how can it go to 100 if it can't even stay at 10? Well, 10 is 200, Opal. It spent a lot of time at $300, weeks at $300, and it went as high as 550. And if you take the time to look at a chart, the chart's starting to look good again. But, it could go down. It could. So that's why you just make a small trade of it. Why it could hit 100 and higher is buy-ins. Buy-ins. Prime brokers don't believe their lying bastard clients, their best customers, are down. When they're down $1 billion or $2 billion, they're going to say, "Oh, we don't. Well, let me call our client. I'll get back to you," and then they won't pick up the phone, and then the next thing you know, the sellout, the buy-in comes. I don't know what bets is. We talked about it the other day, and I'm having a hard time remembering. It was some sort of Bitcoin thing. I don't remember. Well, Biden will talk today. Trump has a pretty brilliant ad out just asking the question, if you vote for Biden, will he survive the next 4 years? If you vote for Biden, you're voting for Kamala Harris. And I guess because she's a woman, she's talented by definition. All women are talented. All women deserve jobs. All women should be promoted. I don't see it that way. And that runs the risk of, oh, you hate women. You're not. No, just put the most talented person for the job in. And don't pay attention to sex or skin color. But hey, we need a female president because we need one. I mean, my daughter can't live in this life unless we get a female president. Well, it's a hell of a price to pay for being stylish. I just can't imagine that in order to prove to the young women of today who are going to college in greater numbers than men, getting doctorates in greater numbers than men, becoming doctors, medical doctors in greater numbers than men, becoming lawyers in greater numbers than men, getting jobs at the big firms and all the big in greater numbers than men. How's it going to change? They're rapid for 2 generations of women, we've said you can have it all. The boys, well, the male role over thousands of years, I think, can be boiled down to 4 things: protection, leadership. Well, and I'm not saying women can't lead, but leadership and mentoring and providing. About it. About it. We historically haven't had the roles of nurturing, although I think men nurture. I think men are very nurturing, but we're not given that role. And then, I lived in the Soviet Union after World War II and one, but particularly two, and for all that generation, and then communism and Stalin and all that. A lot of men died. A lot of men died. And we would drive by the Rosvadorots with the militiaman up in the tower. And sometimes it would be a militiaman, but a lot of times it was women. And then the nags, the babushkas, yelling and screaming at you for something because you didn't understand what they were saying. All women. And the men became drunks. I don't know. I'm not a sociologist, but I don't know how much further we need to take this experiment, saying that men are toxic and women can do everything. It's a fact women can't do everything. Men can't do everything. We're supposed to work together. But anyway, I guess the final nail in the puzzle of equality will be to make sure that Kamala Harris is our president. Man, women will have achieved something. Such a talented person. I think the only person maybe stupider or that comes across as less qualified to be president is the current president than Kamala Harris. Dan Quayle maybe was unqualified. He never got a chance. Trying to think in recent history. I mean, she's got to be the worst and has nothing to do with that. To get ahead, she had a decade-long affair with a married man, Willie Brown, because everyone gets ahead different ways, right? But let's judge Trump on some obscure accusations, but let's give her a pass. She's a woman after all. I don't know. Let's get off of politics. After all, I just got off of yours. I didn't get a specific update on MMTLP. What I asked about TK16 is the Ora Grande. And I didn't really like the answer I got. It wasn't, it's not all bad. And it makes sense in the sense that it's a tight hole. That means that the news has been kept quiet about what they're drilling for and discovering. But the feedback I got, I asked the CEO of Netherland and Sewell, had he heard of the Ora Grande, and he really hadn't. But that's normal. There's so many. I said, well, apparently it's this geologist, Matherson, who discovered the Delaware Basin under the same concepts. And he said, oh, yeah. And he had vaguely heard of the guy. And I said, the number that I'm seeing is they believe they have 11 billion barrels. and maybe 11 billion barrels recoverable. And he said to me, and that's the update, and I want to caution everybody on. He said, if that's the number, he said that's highly unlikely they have 11 billion barrels. And they may have that, but then the question is how much really is recoverable. So that's the update that I wanted to give, because I've put out there, based on what I've seen from people on Twitter that I have grown to trust, that they may have 11 billion barrels in that one shelf. Well, maybe Greg McCabe and those guys use Ryder Scott or Gufferson, or there's one other one out there. Maybe they don't use Netherlands and Sewell. But that's all. I wanted to caution that the big numbers are a little bit premature. Doesn't mean they're not there. Doesn't mean it. It's just a little bit premature to count on it. That was one thing. The second thing I was thinking about, because I've been trying to get my last piddly amount of shares out of E-Trade, and I was on a flight. I was talking with some people down there about the whole thing. They didn't know about it. But it just occurred to me, TK16, that there has been sort of a sea change in attitude on the part of many of us who own MMTLP to move MMTLP into Equinity, or whatever the hell the transfer agent is called now, to get our shares registered in our name. And it seems to me, once that is finalized, and it could still take a little while, I think then Greg McCabe can move to a settlement, because he will then be able to say to lawyers from the other side, they say, well, you can't prove that. Prove it. Well, you say, guys, we've issued all of the stock that we were supposed to. Do you still have people in your broker dealers who own MMTLP? Because if you do, there are no shares left to give them. And then you have a basis for settlement. Then you have a basis, the other side, maybe not publicly, but when they're standing in the bathroom, their knees wobble and they got to hurry to the stall before something bad happens to their underwear. So those are the two things I wanted to talk about MMTLP. One is, let's be a little cautious on the numbers. But remember, TK17, I did a calculation in front of you using, I think, 5 million barrels, and I think $5 a barrel. Anyway, I tried to be as negative as I could be, as conservative as I could be, and it still came out to $50 a share, which is not a bad number. It's a lot lower than I think we're going to get. I think NextBridge is going to be worth possibly $1,000 a share, and it can happen. But anyway, so my summary is, I think I want to be cautious on the amount of barrels they have and stick to the 3.2, 5.7, or what it was, that range, rather than go to 11 billion. And secondly, I encourage everybody to move their shares to Equinity or whatever it's called, because I think that'll speed up the settlement process. And for you, and for me, I'm trying to do it, we resolve our own situation and we're not reliant on people on Capitol Hill or lawyers on the other side. to settle up with us. Yes, good riddance, Victoria Newland. Couldn't agree with you more. Oh, Steve, I forgot. You're talking about bets. Oh, it got delisted. Well, that's the excuse they give. All of these stocks, once they do toxic financing, are going down. And you can use any excuse you want. But the fact is, once the toxic financing is inked, it's over. The excuses just become that. They just become excuses. That's a good number. I think you're going to see, it's 3 o'clock and the stock is 932. The volume is I think it's 327,000. I wouldn't put a stop. Oh no, here you said it. Stop loss. I wouldn't put a stop loss in place. I'd do it in your mind because they could drop it down to 7 and you'd be out before it runs. I just think you have to, kiddies, I think you have to ask yourself, do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? You have to say, why am I doing this? And is it because I believe there's 200 million shares short and the shorts are in trouble and there's bigger players than I in there and it doesn't matter? Or do I really think the criminals can drive it back down? I don't know. And I'm not telling you, I'm not diamond. I've never been a diamond hands guy, although I've held on to positions longer than I should in retrospect. But it wasn't because of diamond hands. I just wouldn't put a stop loss in place. If you're in it for the squeeze, that's a bad strategy. If you're in it for a trade, all right. Stop loss is a rational trading strategy. No, you go with your excellent thinking, Oppo. I think you must dazzle the people around you with brilliance. But we'll just leave that alone. Do we have any positive news on MMTLP? Well, I met last night, Kevin. I met with Pete Sessions, and it was for a different event, and I didn't take a picture because I don't think I have a narcissistic bone in my body. I guess maybe we all do. I don't know. But I didn't want to put a picture up on Twitter and hey, not so much that I object, not other people do that. I'm not objecting to that. It's just that in the context of this gathering, I would have been violating the trust of that room. So I didn't get a picture taken and I didn't put it up. But anyway, I talked with Pete Sessions around one of those standing tables while everyone has a drink. He had a cranberry juice. I had a Heineken Zero, and the other guys had whatever they had. There's about 5 of us, 6 of us. And he gave a little bit of a speech later. But the one thing I can say about Pete Sessions, and it's not the first time I've met with him in that context, he's an honorable guy. And if I were leading the charge with his office, one of the things I might say to him is something along these lines. We would like you to leave the financial markets in better shape once you retire than you found them. Something like that. That would motivate him because he is all about service. I found out something personal about him, which I'll keep to myself. But overall, he was extremely sharp on financial issues. He totally has the read on Powell and on that other chick, Yellen. Yellen comes from the camp, the Dick Cheney camp. Deficits don't matter. To who? Where the hell's that? As long as oil's priced in dollars and as long as our military threatens people, maybe. But when around the world, they already laugh at our markets as corrupt. And our bond market is the largest in the world, the deepest, but it's as corrupt as the stock market. And then our dollar, when the money we've squandered on defense, bombing deserts and assaulting mountains, while Russia and China stole some. Remember that jet that was driven down under George W. Bush, the highly advanced stealth jet that the Chinese got. China has built up its military power and technological know-how. It rivals and surpasses ours. They stole from us, but they also are very smart, hardworking, well-educated. Russia has hypersonic missiles that, in my judgment, can take out aircraft carriers, and we don't have a defense. I hope I'm wrong, but not from what I read. So if our military takes a blow, how long do you think the dollar will remain the premier currency? And then you've got a dollar in free fall. And I would think in those cases, I forget why I got on this. Talking about Yellen. I mean, then deficits will matter and our life will change. We have in the United States what Valerie Giscard d'Estaing, however you say his name, used to call the exorbitant privilege. We have seigniorage. We can print dollars. We want to buy oil, we print dollars. We want to buy cows, we print dollars. We want to buy lithium, we print dollars. We want to buy Alaska, we print dollars. But if you're in Greece, and let's ignore the euro, you want to buy gasoline, you have to go work either as an individual or as a country to earn drachma or whatever it used to be, drachma. And then you convert that into dollars. Then you can go buy oil. Well, right now we don't have that extra step. We have exorbitant privilege. All we have to do is print money. Well, if the rest of the world doesn't accept that money anymore, our life is it's not woke anymore. It boomerangs back to a time when big strong men lead everything. Why? Because they're the sources of safety. It's not good. It's not good. I'm not impressed with Janet Yellen, Victoria Nuland, or the vice president. But just to show that it's not all one way. I think if Trump picked Tulsi Gabbard, I really like her. I've liked her for a long time. She says aloha too much, but I really like her. And I think she would make a fine VP or a president. Hey, Busy. How are you? Thank you, Lee. Wow, I'm behind. Positive vibes, praying. I don't know how bad it was, but he hit his head, and it's not good. That stuff isn't good. I don't know. In this case, it might be fine, but that's just difficult. So prayers, I think, do work, and that's the how to help, because we don't have any. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Donna. Help me, Donna. Help me. Oh no, it's help me, Rhonda. That's what it is. It's oh Donna. I can't remember. Well, Laffy, I think that's true. I think trying to play stocks in this part of the store, it's everything's stacked against us. And I do think it's time to shift to some of the bigger names if you can. For example, Freeport McMoran. I don't know if you guys, let's see what the price is. Okay, it's $39. It's been as low as 33 and as high as 45. It's basically $40 now. Freeport McMoran, I think, will go to $100. Now, is that as exciting as a squeeze play? Probably not. But the shorts won't be able to short Freeport McMoran, the world's largest copper company. And I think it's time, Laffy, to start investing in commodities, would be what I would call it. Wow, they canceled your order? Thank you for prayers. Thank you. I know I had an orange tabby that when I was traveling, his name was Charlie. I loved Charlie. They were the best. Muhammad had an orange tabby. Do you know that? It wasn't called a tabby, but Muhammad had an orange cat. Desert cat. You can look it up. Yeah, I like, if I had some quid, I'd buy some ZJYL here. Look, this trade is either going to work over the next few weeks or not. So you don't need to be in it forever. Your risk, admittedly, is higher than some of the other things we've looked at. I don't know what that is. It's $9. I mean, if everything goes pear-shaped, it could go down to $2 or $3. But the reward, I think, is hundreds of dollars in a spike to the upside, in a buy-in. And that's what we're chasing. But I agree with these realists, Laffy and somebody. The shorts win. The shorts always win. I know my dog, it's nothing compares to you. Nothing compares to you. He's such a good boy. He's so old. What's nice, I remember him all the years I've had him. I remember everything, and I know how he. I almost know what he's thinking. Almost. They never cover is not true, Laffy. I mean, it isn't true. What probably is more accurate is that these squeezes, for the most part, do not get out of control. But I'm too dumb to remember everyone from GME, AMC, HKO, Love TKO. There were a whole list of stocks that went up with a squeeze, and there will be more ahead. And we're just look, Laffy, don't play ZJYL. Don't do it. The only reason I ever mentioned it is simple story. But hell, you don't want to hear the story again, and you don't need to. But the setup's there, and it has nothing to do with us. If all of us here sold our ZJYL right now, hit the sell button, it might go down to 850, 875. We're not the story here. The Wall Street tried to make GME and AMC about the meme, the Bernie brothers, the 400-pound computer guys sitting in their mother's basement and just speculating, and the checks that were sent out. And maybe that's true. I don't know. But in this case, it's not. It's not. It's not our buying that's done anything to this stock. So anyway, Laffy, just don't trade any more of these stocks. Just don't trade anymore. But I would suggest Freeport McMoran, as I've been suggesting for a while, the Sprott Physical Silver Trust, PSLV. I would do it. I don't know about E-Trade. My feeling is that E-Trade doesn't, there's only one stock I was referring to, doesn't have any MMTLP left. I could be wrong. My last bit is in transit, and I'll find out. I don't trust it. I've had to call in 5 or 6 times, but I do recommend that each of us resolve our own MMTLP issue. Is there a resolution? When is settlement? Well, let's resolve it for ourselves. Let's settle it for ourselves. Let's move it out of the hands of the liars into private, yes, admittedly private, but into stock of a private company run by an honest man. Let's do that, and then you've solved the problem. You solve the problem for yourself, and that doesn't mean you won't get any part of a settlement for the extra things like time and damage, whatever that's called, or opportunity cost, or penalties, or a settlement for taking the 2 days of trading away. You won't lose that in my judgment. I'm not a lawyer. but by being at Equinity or whatever the hell it's called now, you know that you own shares of a real company in a real industry, in a commodity that's going to be worth something more than $100 a barrel, I think, in war, in the future, even in a depression. Oil's going to continue to have a value commensurate with what it does. If you have this much gasoline, you could load up your car, put a trailer on back, move a grand piano, your mother-in-law, your dogs, your wife, and boxes and boxes and boxes of important family documents and books from here up Capitol Hill, maybe across into Virginia, and that would cost you $3 or less than $3, $1.50. You're not going to pay any human being that kind of money to move it. Oil has value in our economy that we take for granted. It's completely mispriced. We squander it. But my point is that if the dollar collapses, should I say when? Whatever the value of oil is now, relative to other goods and services, because money is a store of value, supposedly, it's a medium of exchange for other goods and services. Well, if you own oil or the revenues from oil, oil's still going to have that value. The medium of exchange may change in value. The dollar might be replaced by the George Washington or the Kamala Harris or the Beyonce. But it doesn't matter because money's a medium of exchange. It isn't the value itself. Oil will have value in the new iteration of our lives, regardless of what we use as currency. So I would move your stock to, Squidtinity or whatever the hell the new name is. American Stock Transfer is what it used to be called. But I would move your MMTLP to the transfer agent. Well, I think NVIDIA's going higher. I think the whole market's going to go a lot higher. I think the S&P will go to 7,000. I don't think the market's coming down. Everyone's calling for a crash. Everyone's noticing the economy sucks. You know what? I went through the airports down to Houston and back via Atlanta. Every airport was packed. Every plane was packed. There's something still going on in our economy. I'm not so sure our economy is as bad as some of us think it is. There's a lot of activity. I don't think once NVIDIA gets to 1,000 that they're going to pull the rug on it. However, as Pete Sessions said last night when he was talking to us in this small group, he said the stock market's being held up by 5 or 6 stocks, 5 or 6. It's actually probably 7. It used to be called the something 6, the special 6, the extraordinary 6, anyway, they had a name for the 6. Oh, the S&P 6. That's what it was called, the S&P 6. And then they expanded it to the sweltering 7 or something, the Great 7. But anyway, those 7 stocks are always bought by Janet Yellen's plunge protection team, the Treasury, and the big hedge funds. They all buy in unison. I think what's going to happen, and I think NVIDIA might be one of them, or it's closely related. What's going to happen at some point is all these geniuses that are managing money, they're going to scramble out at the same time. And they're going to start putting money, I think, in the resource place, particularly if we go to war. And if we keep Biden, we're going to war. But I'm not so sure that under Trump we won't be at war either, because Trump, I don't want to get in, it's a touchy subject. But Biden, the two Hadid supermodels, their father, who my friend is very close with, came out and said that Biden should be judged for war crimes for the genocide that's happening to the Palestinian people. And Trump is going to take the side of this fat jerk, Netanyahu. That could lead to war. So I don't think our policy is going to change. We're going to support this evil action on the part of the Israelis. My understanding at the last count, over 30,000 Palestinians have been slaughtered. Well, hey, they raided and they did despicable things. Well, that's number one. That's not 100%. I mean, they did terrible things, but it's not 100% sure who did the killing, because apparently in the crossfire, young soldiers killed a lot of their own people. But we don't have to get into that. Let's assume the 1,700 people were killed. Well, now it's 30,000, and half of those are children. Some massive number of people, 500,000, a million, are on the verge of starvation because they can't get food, they can't get water, hospitals are destroyed, and we don't do anything. And Trump will come in and support that FF Netanyahu. And I think we could be in war either way. So sorry if there's a little bit of opinion there. The fact is, we're probably going to war. And I think a lot of these hedge funds will start selling these kind of stocks and buying the commodities, the stocks that make money when you're at war. Oh, you do? Copper's going to be worth a lot. Yeah, I like Tesla. I was in a Tesla Uber in Houston. They're nice cars. I don't know why they're worth 120 grand. I said to the guy, "You paid 120 grand?" He said, "Yeah," he loved it. I said, "I think this car's worth 60 or 70." He said, "Yeah, you're probably right." You're the best, Ellie Belly. Silver is the one beer to have when you're having more than one. Guys, buy silver. And before you can't buy it, at some point you won't be able to buy it. Buy silver. Well, we should start talking about silver. All right, Kit Kitteridge, Kit Carew, this is good advice. The low volume is indicated in consolidation. Bulls will get more leverage on the second leg. The buy-in risk area gets lowered. So in other words, the target number to cause a buy-in is lower. So the short is playing a losing game. I agree with that after the forward split. NVIDIA. That's a good point. Very similar to Qualcomm. Very similar. It's a good point. Yeah, Ahmed, I'm waiting on those two. Let me see. Somebody sent me a message on Finger. I don't know if I'm supposed to read it out. Oh, a technician I know sent me on Finger that over the next 30 to 60 days, we should see a breakout in the downward sloping trend line. And in his opinion, the stock should be an easy double. Let's look at a chart. I wish I could show you, but I'll look at it and you'll just have to believe me. Let's look at a chart of ZJYL. You know, to me, well, gosh, I wish I printed it out so I could draw on it. I could draw on it. Good to draw. All right, so it's not, it just depends on where you draw it. But let me just see on the downside. Well, the line I would draw, anyway, actually, both lines I would draw as a resistance or a support. There, the stock's in the middle of it. But ignoring those lines, those sort of pennant lines, it looks like it broke out when it ran up to 11, and it's down now, just testing. It traded decisively above its 50-day and 20-day moving average. And I'm looking for any gaps. I don't see any gap. My eyesight's not the best. Anyway, to me, it's pulled back to resistance. And, you could argue maybe it could go a little lower. I don't know, but it's pulled back to resistance. And I would expect it would snap back up from here. But anyway, I'm not a great technician. I think I tried to give you that. My update wasn't positive in the sense that I'm not sure there's really 11 billion barrels there that a buyer will give credit for. So you got to drill a few more wells. Doesn't mean it's not there. It just means you have to do more work, more money. So it's a tempering of, extrapolating enormous numbers. But we don't know. I don't know for sure. And, my second thing was, I don't know, but I think E-Trade's running out of shares. So to the extent that we can get our shares moved over, we give Greg McCabe the ability to negotiate and say, guys, anything in your accounts is fraudulent. Anything in Fidelity, E-Trade, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, from this point on, You know for a fact if it's in your client's accounts, it's fraudulent. Why do we know that? Because all of our shares are 164,470,000 are allocated. And we can show you the runs. We can show it to you. We blocked the names for privacy, but we can show it to you. Hey, honest. Avid. Well, let's look it up. Finger motion prospectus dated September 11th, subject to completion. $300 million worth common shares, warrants, subscription rights, and units. Prospectus may not be used to sell securities without the supplement. All right, let's go to the summary. We operate telecommunications products and services, value-added products and services, short message services, and multimedia messaging services. A rich communication services platform, big data insights, and a video game division, which is inactive. China Unicom Cooperation Agreement. It's such small print, I have a hard time reading it. We may offer and sell the securities separately or together to one or more underwriters or dealers, through one or more agents, directly to one or more purchasers, by underwriters, by dealers, by agents. I don't see anything in here that says when. I don't read anything in there that says that. Now, what I'd like to find out is where it said Univest, because I remember it saying Univest. Maybe it's a different, hang on, it may be a different story. I might have to get back to you, CB, because I don't want to waste time on this. Let's see. Current report on 9/14. Okay, on 9/14, they issued this. On September 11th, Finger Motion entered into an at-the-market issuance sales agreement with Univest Securities, the sales agent, under which the company may, when the shelf registration on Form S3, which includes a base prospectus and an at-the-market offering agreement prospectus filed by the company on September 11, 2023, is declared effective by the SEC. That's like a German sentence. It runs on and on and on and on. The smaller agreement was $25 million, subject to the registration statement being declared effective by the SEC, and subject to the terms and conditions of the sales agreement. The sales agent may sell the shares at market, blah, 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 blah. The description does not purport to be complete. The shares will be issued pursuant to the company's registration statement. And here's the at-the-market agreement, up to $25 million. Ladies and gentlemen, Univest Securities. Here, I'll show it to you. How do you know if I'm telling the truth unless I show it to you? Univest Securities. Univest Securities. 75 Rockefeller Place, New York, New York. Ladies and gentlemen. September 11th, 2023. Finger Motion proposes to issue and sell through Univest Securities as selling agent shares of common stock having an aggregate offering price up to $25 million. That's the sub agreement from the $300 million. At the market issuance. A registration on Form S3 registering 300 million of securities of the company shall be filed with the SEC on or around the date of entering into this agreement. It's a long paragraph. Prior to the execution of this agreement, the company has not directly or indirectly offered or sold any shares by means of any prospectus God, only a lawyer could write this crap. Let's get to a summary. On the basis of the representations, warranties, and agreements herein, the company agrees from time to time during the term of this agreement, subject to conditions set forth in and herein, it may issue and sell through the agent shares up to $25 million. A lot of covenants, conditions, indemnifications, termination clauses, default, blah, blah, blah. Signed by Martin Shen, CEO, and Bradley Richmond, Chief Operating Officer and Co-Head of Investment Banking at Univest Securities, LLC. I don't see anything in here that I don't know. I didn't hear what Avid said, but I don't agree with your summary. Ace is the place for the helpful. Man, I know Ham had lunch with a lawyer yesterday. Look, I don't think the story's changed on Finger. But I don't know. I feel like talking about it over and over again doesn't change anything. It's clear to me that they signed an agreement with Univest to raise money. 300 million buys a lot of quid. I don't know why they would put that big a number in unless they wanted to acquire a company, merge with a company, enter into some business that required a large capital contribution right up front. Any of those things would be positive to revenues, cash flows for Finger. Earnings are coming. We have had many assurances that earnings will go positive sometime this summer. I'm not going to go through the 6 businesses again. It's mind numbing just to repeat the same shit. But big data, the rich messaging system, the Apple Care, the 2 insurance companies, it's all massive. But we live in a world, we want our reward right now. Right now. Give it to us now. And it hasn't been that way. Now, does it mean it's going to continue to not be that way? Well, maybe. But I would think over the next 2 or 3 months, you're going to hear about a dividend with Finger. You're going to hear about their earnings and revenues. You're going to hear, I think, some sort of deal, because I don't think you sign up with a bank like Univest just for, fits and giggles. I just don't think you do that. So, but anyway, let's just continue to be negative. Just keep being negative. Oh, the shorts always win. They're so smart. And Finger's a bad company. All of the promises didn't come true. Let's just continue to be negative. Put your money in silver. Put it into Freeport McMoran. Put it in APA. Oh, Moose needs a big hug. Of course, I say that to all dogs. My dog let me hug him this morning. I was so surprised. He normally doesn't let me do it anymore. I think it's pain. Hey, Gary. It's the buy-in. Yeah. I think ZJYL and Figure are both excellent buys. Um, I I'm just crazy. I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but I think Logic makes a good buy, but just keeps getting under pressure. Um, when next speaker? When next speak? That must be a bot, because that doesn't make sense. I don't know when he speaks anymore. I don't know when he speaks. Where were I born? I was born in the United States of America. I was born in the USA. Oh, Sarah Palin. I'll read that. I got to find that book. I've got so many books to read. I got to get my eyesight fixed. Robert Goldston. Oh, lucky boy. The Soviets. 50 years from Chaos to world power. All right. Chaos. I knew I liked Jelly Belly. Men and women have different strengths and complement each other. I still like to be wined and dined and have my door opened. And men like to wine and dine and open doors. They feel very silly if they reach out to open a door and they're met with, I can do it myself. Oh. It's just confusing. It's just confusing. Anyway, well, it's this whole experiment from Gloria Steinem onward is about 50 years. And as I understand it, the human being has been on the earth for anywhere from a couple of 100,000 years to maybe much more than that. And I think over time we'll just revert to things that work. I don't know. I don't know. All I would say, Ellie, I think the view is out there that men have it really easy, and I'm not so sure that men have it all that easy. Very difficult, but I think it's difficult for everybody. That's my approach. M. Scott Peck, The Road Less Traveled. First sentence: life is difficult. First sentence. As a best-selling book. First sentence. Life is difficult. I don't know. I better not answer that. T-Lo hits a new low. I don't know where T-Lo is. Let me see where T-Lo is. T-Lo just announced some sort of trial win, and it's up. I don't know. Any of these can go at any time. But I think ZJYL could go next week. TELO could go next week. But if I had to pick, I think ZJYL goes first. Have no idea what that means. All right, here, Sandman. That's it. See, Sandman, you got it. Let's just work with 3 billion quickly. I won't bore you with my whiteboard. I'll just do it with a calculator here. Let's just use 3 billion, which is a low number, Sandman. 3 billion. And let's assume it's proven. And let's use $30, which is admittedly higher than it's a maximum price right now. And then let's divide it by 500 million shares outstanding. It's $180 a share. $180 a share. And if you want to discount that, knock 80 bucks off, call it $100 a share. Or do it the other way, knock $100 off, call it $80 a share. So it's, I agree with you 100%, Sam. Pay. How high do I think ZJYL will go? Whale. If I can add to your question, in a squeeze, I think it could go to $2,000 or $3,000 a share. But I think the odds of those high numbers are, 5 to 15%. The 80% of the trade to catch is probably somewhere between $100 and maybe $600 a share. It's the big numbers. In a squeeze. If a squeeze doesn't happen, I don't know how high it can go. Maybe to 16, 25, something like that. It's already been there before, been to 300, been to 550. So no one knows. Hey, Rob. Yeah, 500 reduced to 25. Yeah, it'll get worse. I raised money for a healthcare company, and to cut to the chase, after 2.5 years of work and raising a lot of money for what essentially was a concept company. Well, no, that's not true. At the time, it was a little bit more than a concept, but it was still early stages. It then went on to do exceedingly well. All sorts of approvals, all sorts of new contracts, all sorts of international business. It just boomed. But for my efforts, I was given no cash. We were given I think it was 360,000 shares of restricted stock to split. So I think I got 150 for me, 150,000 shares. And it was trading, I don't know, I can't remember what it's trading for. A trading desk in London called me up. Is that Mr. Farrand? Yes. We have an offer to buy all of your shares for 80,000 pounds. I remember that. I was driving in London and I said, let me call you right back. And then I let it go. I went out for a drink or something. I should have taken it. But I figured if someone's calling me out of the blue, something's going on, and I believed in the stock. Well, anyway, Bunny, they got a new CEO. They did a lot of financings that I try to describe to you guys. I try to describe to CEOs. They had all these formulae in them. They had all the backward looking. They had all of that. They had to do reverse splits. I now have, to my memory, 8 shares. It might be 6, but let's call it 8, trading at $4 a share. These bankers steal everything, and they're not bankers. They're just thieves. Oh, you had 5,000. 5,000, wow. Hey, Lazy. Hey, Jeff. Robert. On the 11th, when the feds will stop lending to the banks. I don't think it'll happen. That's when it's set to expire, but I don't think they'll stop lending to the banks. I don't think they will stop lending. There's one guy I listened to who thinks there's a massive liquidity problem going on behind the scenes with the banks. And Robert, it's really amazing. They came in, I forget who rescued this New York community bank, but they gave them $1 billion or something. But it's going to destroy the shareholders, of course. Let's go by Forbes. Takes a while to come up. This is dated February 9th, 2024. This won't help. Well, I'll read this anyway. The top 10 banks in the United States: JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, US Bank, PNC Bank, Goldman Sachs Bank, Truist, Capital One, and TD Bank. But that doesn't let's look at the 20 largest. I don't know if New York Community Bank's going to be on the 20. All right, so you've got those top 10. Then you've got BMO Bank, Citizens Bank, First Citizens Bank, Fifth Third Bank, M&T Bank, Huntington National Bank, Ally Bank, American Express, and HSBC. And then, let's see. Here's the 50 largest. This goes back a year. I'm not going to do more research than this. So back a year, New York Community Bank Corp was the 32nd largest bank in the country. Below it are companies like BOK Financial, Old National, Columbia Banking, Wintrust, Synovus, Valley National, East West, CIBC Bancorp, Popular, Western Alliance, Webster Financial, so on. Goes on up. And what I think is happening is these banks are being allowed to fail, and the big guy, JP Morgan, is getting the good assets, and we get the shaft. All right, so Spiny knows what he's talking about. I'm glad to hear that. Every ship in the group has one job: to keep the carrier alive. But Spiny, what I'm worried about is hypersonic missiles launched from wherever they are. We don't have a defense against the hypersonic missiles. Somebody told me we do, and we just don't talk about it. And I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case. But that's good to hear, Spiny. Yes, I think ZJYL will go, if it goes, it will go before Finger and GTII. That's my opinion. But it's always a risk. I mean, the others could go, but I think ZJYL will go within the next couple of weeks. And if it doesn't, it might be a situation we have to change our mind. Or we just have to adapt to whatever information we're hearing. But my sense is ZJYL will go very, very soon. That's a good point. That's a good point. They're all hypersonic. But I heard it goes 5 or 6 or 7 times the speed of sound, and we don't have a defense. Oh. I'm with you on that, David. I think it's $1,000, $1,100. I think it's all of that. Well, that's true. And what I heard, Spiny, from somebody I trust, is that we have lasers that um, could shoot them down. But I hope you're right. Magnificent Seven. That's it. Yeah, 5. Lou said today that Mexico is joining the, you don't mean Brits, you mean BRICS, I'm sure, BRICS. Well, that's not good to hear. I wonder if we'll invade them. I believe you. I believe you. I just understand that the Ruskies are pretty confident that we don't have a defense against their new technology. But I hope I'm right. I mean, obviously, Spiny, I don't want to be right. Um, hey, Jenny O. NEM, that sounds like the new NEP, the new economic policy. I like it. I like Newmont. I like Derek. What happens, Sea Hunter, with these companies? The first tier goes first. And I would put Newmont in that first tier. And then the second, third, and fourth and fifth tiers go as money rolls down like a waterfall. But the big gold companies uh, are the places to be first. But then there's some smaller ones like Alamis Gold, I like. Uh, My fear is you didn't finish your sentence. Hey, John, how are you? Yeah, Costco is a great company, Jeff. I don't know if it's worth that much money, but Costco, I bet everyone that as they're looking for a safe place to put their money, Costco is a good one. Super cavitating torpedoes. I've never heard of those. Does that mean they're using the energy of the breaking up the water molecules with the propeller to gain speed? Hmm. I'm no engineer. Oh, they won't confiscate silver, but what's going on with silver, I don't remember her name, Blythe. I want to say Masters, but let me find out. That's it, Blythe Masters. Another person promoted beyond skill levels. But she's a big hero. She is a big hero. She now works outside of it, but Blythe worked at JP Morgan. And now she's a blockchain pioneer. Anyway, I don't think she's talented, and I think she's left the world much worse than she found it. British born masters, most powerful women on Wall Street. She's a woman. JP Morgan Mafia. She helped create complex credit derivatives at the heart of the current crisis. This is an old article. Listen to this from Blythe Masters. I do believe CDS, credit default swaps, have been miscast, much as poor workmen tend to blame their tools. Tool this, pal. She developed many of the credit derivatives which were intended to remove risk from companies' balance sheets. Just an idiot with a job. Quote, in bypassing barriers between different classes, maturities, rating categories, debt seniority levels, and so on, credit derivatives are creating enormous opportunities to exploit and profit from associated discontinuities in the pricing of credit risk, unquote. What a genius. So lucky to have this woman at JP Morgan. She was educated at Cambridge. She joined JP Morgan on the commodities desk and worked her way up. At 35, she was CFO, currencies and commodities. Anyway, that's Blythe Masters. But what she's done, Nunya, in her career is she engineered, supposedly, I mean, I'm just getting my information from news stories, the shorting and manipulation of silver markets. And JP Morgan is massively exposed to risk if silver were to go to $100. They've issued fake silver. It's all this genius, Blythe Masters. Anyway, I don't think they'll confiscate it. There's nothing to confiscate. Much of the silver that people buy doesn't exist. But on the other hand, gold they did confiscate. You're right. I don't think they'll confiscate that either. I don't know, Nunya. I think Bitcoin and these other coins are the mechanism the Fed is now trying to use to keep gold and silver suppressed. I mean, it's possible. So I wouldn't hold your gold and silver in a safe deposit box, and I wouldn't hold it at a bank. But I don't think that's the first step. Let me think about it a little, give you a better answer after I think about it. I don't think they'll confiscate silver. But if we're at war, they can confiscate anything. Silver is a critical part of weaponry. I mean, anything can happen in you. But I think the price would have to go really high before they would do such. And I don't think 100 is high enough. Hey, PS71. I just read Sol MD. I just read it. It's at the SEC. They submitted it. All right, PS71. I gotta go over to FedEx. Well, there you go, kiddies. My guy, I understand that when we send our cruise missiles in, they're like 20 million a pop or 25 million a pop. The Houthi launched $2,000 missiles back at us. This is interesting. Battleships became less important when aircraft carrier. Thank you, PS71. Yeah, it's power projection, but why did we had a land-based aircraft carrier in Afghanistan, an airport that was the best ever built, and we just gave it to the Chinese. Why'd we do that? Because we got a mentally missing president. I think XYJL comes back to 650 because of that fractal. I don't know. You could be right. I don't think it'll come back that low, Rob, but it's possible. That would be a heck of a chance to buy it. They call it the blues. Time on my hands. And we don't know. Oh, that's great news, Spiny. That that removes a fear from my head. That's a good summary, Donna. That's a very good summary. No, he's attending to a family emergency. And Moose, Moose, Moose. Two dogs named Moose on the same channel. Well, I hope that I'm totally wrong. And so if our military remains premier, the dollar will remain strong. The Prince of Wales. Well, I heard we have 11 carrier groups, and I think 5 of them are in for repair, something like that. Something like that. Let's see where it closed. Oh, it's 4:30. I'll probably sign off pretty quickly because I've got to walk my dog. 9:20. Yeah, yeah, but that's that's normal language, CB. You don't engage an investment bank and spend the money and do all of that with nothing happening. But it can take months, obviously. It can take longer. I don't know how to do that. I don't have that many subscribers, and I never ask for people to subscribe. I never ask them to hit the like button. I hate it when people do that, but I do notice it never goes up. So I wonder if it's just because I'm terrible, which might be it, or it's blocked from going up. Hey, Sunil. I know where Portsmouth is. Not legal advice was interviewed by Dennis Neal today discussing MMTLP arbitration. What's that channel called? What's Bugging Me Now? Worth listening to. I'm sure we'll put it on Twitter, but I'm sure that's a good interview. Dennis is great, and Richard is great too. Bye, ZJYL. I believe we each should resolve MMTLP ourselves now by moving our shares to AST, whatever the heck it's called. So you can do that in a matter of a couple, 3 weeks. If it goes the legal route, it's going to take years. If it goes the settlement route with Wall Street, maybe with congressional help, it could be this year. But I think a key main ingredient is that we have to fill up the plane. We have to fill up the bus. We have to fill up AST, max it out. And then Greg McCabe can go to meetings and say, hey, 164,470,000 shares are all allocated. So anything in the prime brokers book, anything in broker dealers clients accounts as NextBridge, they don't exist. And it's not our problem, by the way. It's your problem. So I don't think anything's going to happen quickly. If something happens this year, I think it'll be because we move our shares and we give Greg McCabe that leverage to negotiate with. Because now it's the same crap. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Oh, that doesn't happen. That was just meme stocks. Those people were just speculating. Oh, it's, endless. So proof positivo. Oh, is that what cavitation is? A giant air pocket. Ah, okay. All right, let's see. Super cavitating torpedoes. So it's an air pocket around themselves. I see. I love you, boy. Well, let me just finish here and we'll go. I don't agree with you. I think Russia is a powerful nation. And I think he's being very measured in his advance in the Ukraine. I mean, that's a country that has 29 or 28 nuclear power plants with all the waste sitting out there. And they're actually having a land battle with tanks and missiles. It's an insanity on a level I would never think human beings could fall to. But you had Victoria Nuland running it. Half a billion people killed. The breadbasket of the Soviet Union destroyed by radiation and war. The country destroyed. Victoria Nuland should be put in prison somewhere. Jewelry affair. Sold my finger today in losses. Have not seen anything positive come from all of this. Well, it's certainly your right to sell. And every single stock, every single one has been under pressure. And I do think that anything we talk about live, the multi-cats of the world, short it and take advantage. And it's not fun. So it's bravo. You can't lose any more money in finger. And, I hope you do well with where you put it. I mean, if you don't want to buy stocks, the Sprott Asset, the physical silver trust, you'll have to wait. You'll look at your account for weeks and weeks and weeks, but then one day it'll move and you'll make up all your losses. PSLV. PSLV. I think Finger is a company that has only made one mistake in its life, which is to do a deal with Jeff Easton at Lynn Partners. Otherwise, they're very careful. They have the trust of the Chinese government, and they go very slowly. They do everything with lawyers, and they are as slow as the World Bank, but they're successful. But I congratulate you on acting, and I don't know where you're going to put the money, but I'm sure you'll find a good place for it. How about the Brickios? The Brickio. No, you'll have to turn it in at the value they set. Yeah, I'd love to buy Finger myself right now, but we'll see. I'm tired of the market too. All these stocks are down. And I agree with you, Aaron. No one cares. And that comes from Gary Gensler all the way down. They just don't care. Maybe the answer is, Aaron, just put the money in an ETF, a mutual fund, or a managed account. Take 8% a year. Let them make the rest. Maybe that's the answer. And there's a lot of silver. That's excellent. That's excellent, Aaron. All my shares are E-Trade. I got my regular account moved in August. I didn't think it would happen then, but they delivered them home. But now it's Morgan Stanley, and I moved my shares out of my IRA to my regular account. It's not a lot of stock. But I keep getting the runaround when I call in, and they are saying they have to DRS. They can't deliver physical shares. So what I expect to happen is I will be able to call Quintinia transfer agent or whatever the hell and ask, and I hope to hear over the phone, we show you own whatever, I forget the exact amount. It's less than 1,500 shares out of my IRA. But once I hear it, I'm all right. But it's E-Trade. And I think you do need to move your shares. I do think you need to move your shares. That's my opinion. It's my opinion. But I've been walking the halls of Congress. I don't get the publicity of Don Fizz. And I didn't work as hard as Don Fizz. But I have my own experiences, is my point. And I would rather, for me, risk reward, I'd rather know that I own a piece of NextBridge Holdings. As long as that company does not go public, does not take money from these criminals on Wall Street with toxic formula, we're going to have a valuable asset. I don't know what's going to happen in Congress. I don't know what's going to happen in court. So I don't know. I think Jewelry Affairs has every right to sell. My experience in life is when I finally sell a good story, which I consider Finger to be, it goes up. That's just me. It's happened to me a lot of times. On the other hand, after it goes up, it can drift back down. But one good thing of selling is you take it out of your mind, you take your losses, and you can get on with life rather than worrying about it every day. And absolutely, that's what the shorts expect. The shorts win because the shorts don't care. They don't care. They'll say anything. It's a game for them. And they know if they can keep selling, keep the pressure on, make every bit of good news irrelevant by increasing the number of shares, destroying the cap table, they're going to win. And nobody on the regulatory side, nobody on Wall Street gives a flying duck. Well, that's a good point. Not financial advice, but I would say clearly, Lion. I mean, it's so obvious, it's almost a bumper sticker. But Finger Motion has turned from a trade into an investment. And that's one thing. If you write down your goals as you're doing things, that's one thing that's horrible. If you're in something for a short-term trade and all of a sudden it becomes an investment, that's usually not a good thing. And maybe in retrospect, when Lou came on and said, buy COSM along with Frank Benedetto, who's the investment IR guy for COSM, we should have sold everything. Should just gotten out. But it's easy to look back and say that. That would have been a trade. But now it's turned into an investment. I don't mind that. I just forgot the name. Sold. You know, it didn't work as a trade. Get out and look for the next thing. It's not fun. On the other hand, I waited and waited and waited in different situations, and sometimes the waiting isn't worth it. Yeah, I think Finker is now Lion. Take the Exio, put the E after the I, and put the X where the C is. Brexio. Brexio. That's true. You got to go. And when stocks go up, when markets move, when the volume's there, you should sell. And that's one thing I think in retrospect, when Lou Bravo, Frank Benedetto, and George, whatever the CEO's name was at Cosmo, really effectively got everyone to leave GTII when it was in the middle of a squeeze. I should have recognized that that's it for that. Let's just move on for a while. I don't think it's over. What my point is that in retrospect, every time one of these stocks had volume, starts trading up, and it did not reach our targets, it still was, in retrospect, it's clear it still was a time to sell. Of course. That'll go to zero. There's no reason to own that stuff. I think that's right, Cougar. I think they should have already run, but on the other hand, some people have pointed out maybe when we talk about it, they just come against us. I don't know. The core of it is the system is not the way it used to be. And I wouldn't have known that 3 years ago. There is no settlement and there are no compliance officers. Nobody enforces settlement. My opinion, it's intentional. It's intentional. And that Blythe Masters idiot woman, credit default swaps. Credit default swaps, there's probably there's a quadrillion. There might be 400 trillion in credit default swaps around the country. It's all about maximum leverage, maximum risk, and the bankers can pay themselves. Look at me, I'm Sandra D. And then if it fails, the poor workman blames it on his tools. I'm so sick of all this. I'm so sick of it. Hey, thank you, CB. I think that's true. On the other hand, I'm not people have a right to invest in anything, but I think that narcissist with 3 first names came in like a drum major and he destroyed some capital. I think that graduate of SUNY Albany came in like an idiot, even though he's smart and I think honest. And he destroyed more investor capital than anybody, including mine. And everybody had their own agenda. But that's, we're a herd of cats. We're not majestic wildebeest galloping into the sunset. Congress won't do anything. Congress won't do anything. Congress won't do anything. They haven't. But you never know. You never know. All it takes is one courageous person. And I nominate Anna, Queen of Trades. But there's a lot. There's 2, 3, 4 dozen people working their ass off. And, you just need an aha moment. My opinion, Cougar Fields, the whole thing's going to collapse and then they'll fix it. That's my opinion. They're stealing. and Blythe Masters. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I don't see any more questions. Let me see. I made some notes. I think I touched on it all. But it doesn't matter. It's almost 5 o'clock. I've got to walk my dog, and then I've got to go meet my sister at 6 o'clock. So, I mean, I don't know much about it, but I don't think, I mean, it was created by the government or by the, by the Fed or Treasury Department, and they can extend it. I just don't see it stopping. They're not going to let banks go down, and as long as they can. And then at some point, they're not going to be able to stop it. All right, so I'm wrong. Okay, so I'm wrong. They announced it on yesterday. So I'm wrong. I would have, Lion, I would have bet $50 that they would extend it. So then what does it mean? I think it means that banks get sold to JP Morgan. The good assets go to JP Morgan, and the bad loans go to the US Treasury. Janet Yellen says deficits don't matter. And hey, I'll take $100 worth. My choice, $100 worth now or $100 worth when I win the bet. All right. All right. I'm going to sign off and go walk my dog. So I wish everyone peace, love, and happiness. And I'm glad Jenny L came on. Still pray for her, but I'm glad to see her on. But if you can think of it, if for those of you who think that way, just say a quick prayer, even if it's quick, for Ham and his son and his family, and just a miracle that there was no damage done, and if there were, that it's healed miraculously. And I don't know what else to leave off. We'll come on tomorrow. I'm sorry, I'm tired of all this too. Those people that have said they're tired of it, I'm tired of it. The problem is, the problem is when you get into a situation, a number of these, and then it's out of your control. The CEO does his or her best, but they get where they are because they're usually good students, good executives, good followers, good leaders, and they take advice. And when these liars come in and say, hey, we're not doing it, we're going to do this, we're going to guide you, and we're going to solve your funding problems, it's really seducing. But we can't control The hardest thing to understand is it's not the house, it's not the property, it's the mortgage, it's the financing. If you buy a beautifully situated property, but have onerous financing, you become a slave, but you're also going to lose that house even though it goes up. Okay. All right. So good night, everyone. We're going to go on a walk, Lucky and me. Well, actually, Lucky and I. So we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.